Hi, I'm Brittney. It's nice to meet you. I'm disabled, and part of being disabled means that things like fitness or physical exercise or all those kinds of things is extremely difficult. I have fibromyalgia, arthritis. I have a fucked knee that I was supposed to get replaced like 13 years ago. I have a lot of problems, and I have been working very diligently since since like October. I've been on my fitness journey since like May. And maybe it's me treating myself poorly for not working as quickly as I wanted to or how I thought I should be. But we're here now. At the height of my weight, I was 317 pounds. Right now I'm fluctuating between 283, 284, and my goal is to be 220. I haven't always been this big. I've always been considered big, but I was also very muscular, very tall. I'm just kind of a broad, big kind of individual. And yes, I understand at the base of all of us, we all have the same fucking skeleton structure or whatever. I just put on muscle really easy. I've read that apparently people who have PCOS, which I do, tend to carry more testosterone and therefore put on muscle a little bit easier. And I've always been pretty muscular and very bulky. And regardless of how bulky or muscular you are, when you're a teenager or a kid and you have muscle or you are bigger than everybody around you, you're a big girl. So I've always been a big girl. Doesn't mean I could not lift them all at the time, but still I was a big girl. My chronic illnesses weren't acknowledged really until I was in my 20s. If you read my doctor's chart, it would literally say chronic back pain of over 3 months, chronic knee pain of over 3 months. These things that they knew were problems because I was constantly going to the doctor. I was constantly trying to see somebody, I was constantly trying to get care for it. But because I was big, even too, I had abs and was strong as fuck and had muscle, and they were like, you're just overweight. And I was like, I'm so obviously not. I should not be in this amount of pain. So I didn't finally see anybody until I railed against the system like a fucking asshole. And I literally didn't see anybody until I got very mad at a lot of doctors over and over and over again and asked to see a specialist, asked to see a rheumatologist, and finally found somebody who would take my pain seriously. The weight that I got to really got to me when after my dad had a stroke. He survived the stroke, but he was left bedbound, unable to speak, unable to eat. He lost a leg. He had to have his skull removed for a portion of time. And when all that happened, I had a son at the time who was 2, almost 3, and I was thrust with a lot of responsibilities. Because of all those responsibilities, I got very stressed out. I started having heart issues where before, didn't matter how big I was, never really had heart issues through my whole pregnancy, never had heart issues. You know, they always were like, oh, you're too big, you have heart issues, those kinds of things. I never did. But I started to have really serious heart issues to the point where I did have a couple scares. They were concerned I was having heart attacks or something, acute episodes or whatever they called it. One of the things that happened through that period of time for me was I had to stop being available for other people because I became extremely available for everybody who needed me for something. I was, a shoulder to cry on. I was the one who would go out and make money. I was the one who took care of everything. And it got really hard, really fast to do all those things. One of the ways that I coped with it was I was on call nearly all times of day and night because my dad was in such a fragile state. He spent 6 months in the hospital. There would be times at 2 or 3 in the morning when it was, go out, go pick up my mom, go to the hospital. He's having, we think he's gonna die. You guys need to come say goodbye, or, things would happen. And it was really hard because my dad was really, a special person to me. One of the ways that I coped with that was I was so exhausted. I was working 6 days a week in a job that I really didn't know well, because I ended up inheriting my dad's business. It was a sole proprietorship, so it's not like I had anyone else to really turn to at the time. I had some people who tried to help, but we never really were able to get anywhere with that. I was so lost, so confused, and I started drinking, like really bad. I always maintained that I wouldn't drink if my son was awake. So as soon as that bedtime hit, I was starting to hit a bottle. It became a problem fairly quickly. One I didn't want to acknowledge, but it did become a problem fairly quickly. And after that, I was going through about a bottle of vodka at night, and that's when I really started packing the weight on. Which, for anyone who, knows, stress definitely has an impact on weight for sure. At least in my experience, it does. But what has the biggest impact on weight, I think, is calories in versus calories out. And there was a lot of calories going in, and at the time, there was a lot going out. It was like 119 that summer. It was hot. Not as much were going out as were coming in, and I think it was a coping mechanism to stop being available, because if someone called me in the middle of the night and needed me to go somewhere and do something, I was drunk and I couldn't. It would be unsafe. I eventually had to come to terms with the fact that I had a drinking problem again. This isn't my first do-si-do with alcohol. My first do-si-do with alcohol was in college. Similar reasoning, but at the time I was in college and had no responsibilities like my son. So I decided to drink first thing in the morning until I went to bed. Very high functioning alcoholic, to give myself the credit, I guess. So a lot of people didn't know I had a problem, and, I guess that lovely little factoid about me persisted. The only person I think who really noticed I had a problem was my husband. I'm certain some of my friends picked it up here and there, but they always, would just be like, man, last night was crazy. And I'm like, yeah, it was. But the shame and the embarrassment and, it got so bad. So I quit drinking. How much weight have I lost? I was 317, I was 280, we'll say 284. I've lost 33 pounds. I don't know if you can see that, maybe. I've lost 33 pounds since I stopped drinking. But yeah, I stepped on the scale last year and I was like, yeah, something needs to change. Something significant needs to change, because that is not cool. That's not okay. I was in stage 2 hypertension with my blood pressure, which for me was the most scary thing, because that meant that I could have a stroke or a heart attack very quickly. And I had a couple episodes shortly thereafter, so I guess, check your blood pressure if you haven't. See a doctor or somebody if you have high blood pressure or hypertension. It was also sort of a running joke in the family, because everybody was being diagnosed with hypertension at the time because we were all stressed. And so I couldn't take it. I couldn't take being that weight. I was uncomfortable. I couldn't lay down because I was just being choked to death with my own fat. It was pathetic. So pathetic. At least me looking at myself. I looked in the mirror and I was just like, I am a pathetic individual. The state I've allowed myself to get in is shameful. I ascribed a lot of negative emotions to that, to what had happened, and I think I didn't acknowledge enough of what I was going through and what was being asked of me, and it was really hard. I'm glad now that things are kind of stable. Things aren't perfect, but they're stable. But my weight is steadily decreasing. I'm finally out of hypertension. That just happened a couple weeks ago, and that was literally the reason I kicked myself in the ass to do this. I needed to do that for my son, for my family. I suffered RSV when I was 2 months old. At the time, 30 years ago, they didn't know what RSV was. It was very new, and it was very dangerous, and it killed a lot of kids. I think I was airlifted to a hospital. My parents saw me in quarantine with another kid who was 1. I was covered in tubes and all these things, and it was a really traumatic time for them. But because of the RSV, I've had a decreased lung capacity. I've had really bad asthma my whole life. Asthma that went undiagnosed and untreated for a long time because they didn't know the long-lasting effects of RSV when I was little. They had, my mother tells me to this day, she remembers they gave her a sheet of paper that had about this much text on it that explained what RSV was and what they knew about it. And it was so new and it was very scary, and I almost died, as well as I think the kid that was in there with me also ended up, he did end up dying, but I'm not sure. So because of that, I've had the inability to breathe my whole fucking life. And because I can't breathe, I can't do a lot of cardiovascular things. This was before I had any weight on me. When I was like a stick thin child, I could not run around. I couldn't keep up with my friends. It was almost a running joke, is that I was so much slower than everybody. I remember being young. I was very outdoors. I always wanted to run around. I always wanted to do all these things, but I just couldn't with my breathe when I did it. And I remember talking to my mom about this. It was like a run-a-thon thing, right? If someone pays, you run so many laps, there's money that they donate to charity or whatever, and I thought it was a nice idea, and so I decided to do it. And I remember my mom showing up for my little run-a-thon thing that I did. I want to say it was kindergarten, maybe first grade, and just she started laughing because she was like, dude, I was just watching you out there dying. And I'm like, I can't breathe. I literally can't breathe. They ended up having to give me a bag that I could catch my breath in or whatever, but it was, at the time, I thought that was normal, and I thought that I was unfit, and I thought that, and mind you, I'm so tiny, I'm within my health range or whatever. I was very tall, but I was super lanky. And so I never understood until I got older, and then all these, research things about the long-term effects of RSV. And now that I have a kid, they want me to be concerned about RSV for him and all these things when it comes up during the cold months. And I realized, oh, there's long-lasting effects like decreased motor functionality and a decreased lung capacity, which can affect your heart. And I didn't know that until a few years ago. And then I learned that my whole life of being less fit cardiovascularly than everybody else made a lot more sense. I'm on a journey to try to lose the rest of this weight. What is that, 63 pounds? That'll put me at 96, so nearly 100. I'm trying to lose 100 pounds. I'm in the middle right now of a 75 soft challenge. I've been using Noom to learn how to lose weight better than I have in the past. And I think the biggest mental hurdles that I had to jump through was the drinking. I have a very high tolerance. I've always had a very high tolerance. And one of the biggest problems was that when I started drinking, I would need a half a bottle to get buzzed. And then a full bottle would get me blitzed. 3/4 of a bottle is typically what I drink every night. 3/4 of a bottle of vodka. I have a sober tracking app, and I am currently almost 2 months as of recording this. I will be 2 months tomorrow. That's huge. I don't think it's gotten easier. I think the first few weeks was pretty easy because you carry so much shame and so much I can't believe I did this, and I made such an ass out of myself, and I embarrassed myself, and I did all these things. And the further away from those inciting events that you get, the less you remember the shame that you carried. And I'm also one of those people that just doesn't want to live with regret. You just need to move on and get over it because of how much I can sit there and beat myself up over something. And so I think the further out from the drinking I get, the harder it becomes to maintain. But I know I'm happier now, and I know that it's better for me, and I know that I don't need to be drinking, and that drinking doesn't serve me or my goals. Since I stopped, I actually started making progress in the things that I cared about. Because I stopped drinking and I lost like the first initial like 17 pounds. I got to like 300. Then I was fluctuating between like 295 and 305. Like I was just going up and down, up and down, up and down every single week. I'd go down and then I go back up and then I go down, I go back up. And it was just like I was starving myself all day so that I could drink at night. If I didn't starve myself all day, I'd go to, I'd be like, okay, I can only have like 1 or 2 or 3 shots tonight. I better just take them in rapid succession so I can actually get drunk. But it would wear off by, an hour or so, and it would only give me like a little bit buzz. I also have bad luck with drinks where there are some days where I could take like 1 or 2 shots and I'm pretty good, like I'm chilling and I can have like 3 or 4 and like enjoy my night. And there are other days where I can drink a half a bottle and there is nothing happening. And I don't know why. I can't tell you what the difference is. I always think, oh, maybe it's because I've eaten or I've not eaten or I've had more carbs today than I normally do, those kind of things. And I track all my calories, and there are some days where I've barely eaten anything and I drink an entire bottle of vodka and I didn't get anywhere. That's where I'm at. And I want to kind of start recording this experience because I know a lot of people who have a lot of illnesses or like pain and things that are related to their weight, lose the weight and they talk about it and they talk about how much better it gets. And, oh, now that I have less weight on me, my back doesn't hurt. Or now that I have this, my knees don't hurt, or I can walk farther and that kind of thing. And I have been as little as me at a great weight where I've got abs and I look great is like 200. And I've been there and I'm still in pain when I'm that weight because of my chronic illnesses that I can't get rid of because, surprise, surprise, they're chronic. And I've tried everything. If you're going to recommend it, I promise you I've tried it. I've tried it all. I've tried pills, I've tried medication, I've tried therapy, I've tried drinking juice, I've tried cutting out nightshades, I've tried it all. I've tried the anti-inflammatory diets, I've met with dietitians, I've met with physical therapists, I've met with psychotherapists, I've met with hypnotists, I have tried chakra therapy, because I've tried acupuncture. One of the things is when you have chronic pain, you are desperate to get rid of it. And I know that there's always someone trying to sell you some snake oil, but at the end of the day, when you have something like fibromyalgia, which is a neurological disorder, usually caused by a medical, physical, or emotional trauma, which I happen to have all 3 at the same time, once or a few times in my life now, actually. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do. You can work through the trauma, you can accept it, you can forgive it, you can let it go, you can forgive yourself. But that doesn't change the fact that if I walk more than 5,000 steps a day, I am in agony by the end of it. And I can sit there and say my affirmations and say I'm not in pain and that it's just my body making a trauma response and that I'm okay and everything's okay with me, and I can believe it to my soul, and it still doesn't change that I'm in pain every day, and it still doesn't change that I have an incurable disease. It doesn't change that I have arthritis and that my knees are grinding on each other and that my shoulders are grinding on each other. And it's a really hard concept for people to grasp, that even if you're doing your best and you're eating clean and you cut out sugar and you do a diet where you reintroduce foods and you try Whole30 and that you go vegan and you do everything under the sun, because I've done it, I promise you I've done it, and it doesn't work. It hurts people, it hurts their feelings, and it feels hopeless to people who are going through it. And I'm sorry to say that that is the unfortunate fact we're all living with. And that the best thing we can do is try to make it more bearable. But we need to acknowledge the fact that we can only do so much, because it frustrates me to no end. And I know it probably does to you too. And I'm sorry that you're going through it. I think having to face the harsh reality of the situations that we're in is part of someone who has chronic illness's journey. The acceptance, the recognizing that this is the hand that we're dealt, this is what we're dealing with, and there's nothing nobody can do about it. And having to constantly fight everybody who wants to blame it on something else. They want to blame it on pesticides. They want to blame it on the vaccines. They want to blame it on this. They want to blame it on that. You know, they're putting shit in the air. They're, you know, I don't, it's always something. It's always something else other than it's an unfortunate circumstance that doesn't really have a definable finish. And it's something that I feel like I've gotten to the point in my life where I'm tired of defending. That I'm chronically ill, that I'm not going to perform at the same level as a healthy person, that I need to take more rest than a healthy person, that doesn't mean I'm not grinding as hard. That doesn't mean that I'm not fighting as hard as everybody else. That doesn't mean that I'm weaker. That doesn't mean that I'm making excuses. Because it's not. It's giving context. It's not making excuses. And I know it feels like you're making excuses when you explain you have a chronic illness. But it's not. And for those who don't want to accept it, fuck them. I'm so tired of people telling me I didn't do enough to avoid it, to fix it, to heal it. Because there's a etymology of the thing that we're explaining, which is chronic illness. And if you don't understand what chronic means, I would love to refer you to your local library. There is a dictionary in there. You should look at it. My name's Brittney. This is like the fourth of the way through my health journey, but I thought I'd bring you along. I have been documenting a lot of it on my Instagram too, if that's something you care about. And if you made it this far, drop me a rainbow emoji. Just because I like rainbows and they're fun. They make me happy. Rainbows are one of those things, whenever you look out into the sky, it feels like a miracle. Even though it's just light refractions. It feels like a miracle. It's like a sunrise or a sunset. Thanks for hanging out. Subscribe, like, leave comments if you want. Take care of yourself. Know that you're worthy. Know that you're not making excuses. Know that if you're perfectly healthy and you want to join or talk or hang out and see what the rest of us chronically ill people are going through, thanks for coming and empathizing. That's cool. It's cool. You should educate yourself. And if you're going through it, so are the rest of us. You're not alone. It feels like that a lot, though. I know. I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Thanks for listening to my rant.